this has to be the hardest part for me. Super practical, but nonetheless, so important. I'm kind of guessing you may not have thought of this one. Hello, travel lovers. Welcome to A Wanderlust for Life. I'm Jessica, and sometimes we talk about living abroad on this channel. So sometimes it's European travel, sometimes it is your best Amsterdam tips. And since I've lived in Amsterdam since 2014, I have to really think about what I need to do and like the checklist to go back and visit family in Virginia. It actually can take a fair bit of planning. So that's what we're going into today. The first thing to figure out is how often you want to go back to visit. Now, this is really important because I don't know, if you went to college, you may understand that they would tell you like, don't go back and visit home for the first however many weeks or whatever, especially if you lived close, because you really have to get used to that new life. And I'd say the same is true for when you move abroad. And of course, there are lots of different caveats here, whether you have kids, whether you have elderly family that you want to go check on every couple months. There are a lot of reasons why my way is not going to be the right way for you. But I figure if I tell you my way, then you'll be like, yes, absolutely, or what is she thinking? She's crazy. So either way, it should help, right? So I go back once every 2 years, and that gives me plenty of time to really start, feeling that draw back. I want to see familiar faces. I want to do familiar things. I want to feel like I'm in my hometown. But also, it's a long flight, and ours is one of the shorter ones. Ours is like a 7-8 hour flight, and it costs a lot of money to go back, let's be honest. And we moved over here for many reasons, but one of those is to travel more. And we want to see new places. We want to have these new experiences. So, it's not like we want to go back for 2 weeks every year and use that much vacation time to do the things and be in the areas we're familiar with. So 2 years works perfect for us. Maybe not for you, but that's okay. So the first thing after that is to decide when you're going to go. For me, I try to avoid the winter, mainly because I don't want to go around the holidays. That's a big thing for me because prices are a lot more around American holidays. But also, I don't like the winter time because blizzards happen in Virginia and around the East Coast to where your flights could get delayed. Of course, there could be other reasons. We all remember the Iceland volcano, right? So flights can still get grounded for other reasons, but at least I kind of avoid that part of it. Virginia summers are quite hot, so I tend to stay away during those times. So for me, this past time I went at the end of May, early June, so I actually spent my birthday there, which was really interesting and really kind of cool because that was the first time in 9 years, I think, that I've spent my birthday with my family. But then also September, because that's when things are starting to cool down, maybe October. I love the fall in Virginia so much. If you watched one of my previous videos about my trip, you'll know that that is one of the things that I miss most about Virginia is the entire autumn season with the apple ciders and the hay mazes, the corn mazes, whatever you call them, the leaves changing and all of that. Just being surrounded by all of that is so magical. So that might be a time I want to go. So you have to figure out what works best for you and, of course, your own work schedule. Now, I work for myself. YouTube is the main part of my job, so I'm pretty flexible, but I have high seasons too. So you'll usually see me traveling April through June and then September through November. So that means that usually that trip back to Virginia is going to be at the beginning or end of one of those seasons. And that's mainly because I like to spend the summer here in Amsterdam, or at least here in the Netherlands or Northern Europe, because I like the vibe of it. I like the joyous nature that it is. So that is what works for me. Next up is flights, of course, because it is so expensive to go home for some people, and you really want to be mindful of this kind of thing. Now, see, for me, I don't plan travel too far in advance, typically. So when I'm flying back to the US, it's really the one thing that I do way ahead of time because I want to make sure my work can go around that time period. And because I kind of set my own schedule, that's a little easier to do. So what I do is I set flight alerts. Have you ever done that? Let me know down in the comments below how you look for flights, because I'm always really curious what websites people use and what tricks that you have up your sleeve. My biggest one is just flight alerts. So I will set it on Google Flights and Skyscanner. Both have good options to do it. I would go ahead and set it on both. Now what I tend to do more so on Google Flights is I will pick the flight I want. I take the same flight out of Amsterdam and I take the same flight back into it, just because I don't know, it's just easier and the timing works out better. Now coming back to Amsterdam is a red-eye flight, which means it's overnight, which, let's be honest, completely sucks. But if you want some tips on how to kind of make that longer flight more bearable, I'll leave a link up here for you on how to make your economy feel like first class. It's a very popular video, you guys seem to like it. So check that out and see if that might help you, especially if you have one of the longer flights. So just set the price alert, and that way you can kind of gauge the range that it is. And once you have the price alert, especially on Google, you can see the trend. You can see how low it's been since you've been looking, how high it's been. So that'll give you a really good idea. Also, if you fly with one airline, so I fly with KLM mostly, they really should start paying me for this. I have the emails that when they are getting some of those city deals, those flight deals, I get those emails. So then I can get a flight for $600 or $700 versus $1,000. So do that, save your money because it's the same flight and you don't want to pay more for it if you don't have to. This has to be the hardest part for me. I don't know about for you guys, so definitely let me know, but figuring out my schedule while there. So some people know exactly what they want to do. Maybe their friends are all in the exact same place. Maybe you have the same habits every single time. I don't. So scheduling time with friends and family is quite difficult, especially if there's like one thing to schedule around. This last time I made a mistake that I would maybe recommend that you avoid depending on your friends and family schedules. I did a Tuesday to Tuesday setup. While my parents and my grandmother are retired, my friends aren't. So I had to schedule time, and I didn't even get to see everybody that I wanted to see, but I scheduled time on days where they could meet up, like for dinner or lunch on that Friday. I think the hardest part for me is when you talk to somebody and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know, like, because you're not traveling like you would normally travel. There aren't things to do. You're not checking off a list or anything like that. You're just trying to be with the people that you love and that you miss. So one thing that we did the first time that we went back was we scheduled a barbecue for all of our friends in the Harrisonburg area, because that's where we left. That's where we left most of our friends. And if they weren't there, then they were nearby. They were within an hour's drive. So that worked out really, really well for us. But some of you may have to plan like flights, and you're going into one place, but you need to fly to another place to see another group of your friends or family, and then you'll fly out of there or something like that. But schedule as early as you can, because this will really, it can really like nag on you, like on your brain, because you love these people and you want to see them and you want to spend the appropriate amount of time with them, but you just don't know how to do that best. So reach out early, then you can come up with a pretty decent plan, and then just make sure you're not scheduling things too close together. So what I would do is I would have a meal with somebody and then like the next meal with somebody else. And then that way, if you had time, you could linger, you could just hang out, you could go for a drive, and then you can go see the next person while still giving you a little bit of downtime. Let's talk packing. So I'm not, and my family isn't really big presents people. So like I'm not taking a whole bunch of stuff back for presents, but if you have nieces or nephews or cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever, then maybe you want to take some stuff back. And if you're like me, where I left some of my stuff at a family member's house, you might try to bring some stuff back little by little. So what you want to do is a couple things. You have a couple options. You can take a really big suitcase and just not pack it super full. That's a little harder just because if you don't pack it at least kind of full, then stuff's always shifting around, and I think it just makes it quite difficult when you're moving the bag and everything's going everywhere. Or you can pack a bag in a bag, and this is what I do. So sometimes I've used a larger suitcase, like we've been using the level 8 25-inch like four-wheeler suitcase, and you can fit another suitcase in that, like one like 21 inches or something like that. You can pop that in there and then pop it back out. So basically what you'll do is you'll pack the 21-inch, pop it in the 25-inch, and there you go. That's usually pretty easy. What I also do, because Sean did that, I did a heavier duty tote bag that I just kind of folded up and put it in my suitcase, and that also worked because I knew that the tote bag could be checked. Then that gives you the opportunity to bring things back that maybe you left behind because you didn't have room to take the last time, or new things when you go shopping when you're at home. And if you want to see what I bring, definitely subscribe because I have that video coming up in just a little bit, and I show you everything that I buy when I'm in the US. If I'm buying things in the US, I will order them ahead of time. So definitely take a look at the lead time and the shipping time if you're ordering anything to be sent to a family member's house, which is how I do it. And Sean does the exact same thing. So of course you can go shopping when you're there, but if there's things that you can only get online or things that need to be created and then shipped, definitely plan ahead. So what I try to do is I try to have everything there a week before I get there. This allows for two things. One, I shouldn't miss it even if there are delays. And two, if I need to send anything back, then I have the time to do that and I'm not like digging into like 30 days ahead of time and then I can't send it back. So that's a really big tip, is to just watch out for that stuff throughout the year or throughout your in between the trips. Start making a list of things that you know that you want to pick up or that you need to order or you need to have made, anything like that. And then set a calendar alarm so that you know when you need to start making those orders. Super practical, but nonetheless so important, is make sure your passport's up to date and your driver's license, if you have one, is up to date. So I've updated my passport here in the Netherlands. It was super easy, but most places you need like 6 months on your passport. Now, if you're going back to your home country, I don't know how that works out. But nevertheless, you still need to check your passport pretty much anytime you travel, but especially when you're going home. And some people will have things done while they're home. So whether they are applying for like super fast security or getting a new passport, like an expedited one, just make sure that everything is up to date and ready to go so that as soon as you get there, everything is fine. I'm kind of guessing you may not have thought of this one because I don't know at which trip I did think about this one, but health insurance, travel insurance. So I do not ever want to take the chance of getting sick in the US. And if you're American, you understand. And if you're from any other country, you probably understand that our healthcare system is a bit scary when it comes to prices of things, especially if you're uninsured. So I get a travel health insurance. Personally, I use World Nomads. And I think my Dutch healthcare would cover some of it, but I'm not totally sure. I really need to look into this a little bit more because I know they've changed things in the past few years. But basically, make sure you're covered, especially if you're in the US, because things happen. And it's insurance for a reason, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to have an accident. You never know. Like, seriously, you never know. So I don't take any chances. I get insurance. Makes me feel better and just a lot less to worry about. Let's talk about the flight. So for us, it's a longer flight. For I think a lot of people, when they move really far away, it's really far away, and the flight is quite long. So I always pack like an in-flight bag. And again, I'll leave the link down below for you to how to make, economy feel like first class. But really, it's just everything that you might need for the flight. Everything to make you comfortable for the flight. Just take it. Especially if you're checking all your big bags and you don't have a lot with you and you're just taking a personal item, then just make sure that you have everything you need. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I have my neck pillow. Some people think that's a dumb thing to take. I'm like, again, whatever makes you comfortable. And then I will load up my phone with movies and music, and I will take a corded headset. So I have a Bose, it was a refurbished, always look for refurbished, like authorized refurbished for some of these things. way cheaper. But I have a set that I absolutely love that doesn't hurt my ears and it plugs in. So I take that for the flight, or you can get something that you plug it in and it sends it to your earbuds. You can also do that. Then any lip balm, face cream, whatever. Next is snacks. So I get snacks before I go through security, and then after security, I will fill up my water bottle and I will get extra drinks. So usually I get hydration drinks for the flights. And I just take one of those, little tiny packable grocery bags, and I just throw everything in there. So it's all in one place, and that's just my snack bag, my drink bag, things like that. Now on flights, even though we do fly KLM and water is completely free, I don't want to be getting up constantly, especially in the middle of the night, middle of the flight, and I don't want to keep buzzing. So that's why I kind of bring my own drinks, but of course I drink whenever they give me the option as well. The last thing that I have with me is a charger, because you never know on the flight if your charger, your USB charger will work, and make sure everything's charged before you go. I think that's self-explanatory, but making sure your laptop is, because you may not be able to actually charge that on the plane. If you want to work, if you want to edit, if you want to watch movies on your computer, just make sure that you have all of that ready. Another thing when packing that you might forget about, especially if you don't live in a place with the same plug or voltage, is that some things you're not going to want to take with you. So I now travel with a clothing steamer. I know some of you are probably like, that is absolutely ridiculous, and maybe it is, but I don't like ironing. But of course, when I'm somewhere else, they have an iron, so I can do that if I need to. But I can't take that. I can't take my hair straightener. I can't take things that would use those plugs, but also I don't even like to bother with the voltage situation. So what I do is I have an Anchor. I love Anchor, by the way. Like, if they want to sponsor me, come on, because I have everything of theirs. But I have this one Anchor thing that it just plugs in to just a plug adapter. You don't need the converter. And then it has 3 outputs for USB. Yeah, regular USB, so that you can charge pretty much everything. Most things are chargeable by USB now. So I take that with me and an adapter. And then when I am somewhere else, I just either do without, or since I'm with family, I just borrow one of theirs. And for my computer, you can always buy, if you're traveling back and forth a lot, you can also buy just the plug that goes from the power brick to the wall, and that's what I do. So I have an American one of those, and I have a European one of those. What other expat immigrant questions do you have for me? Leave them in the comments below. And if you want to book like an hour consulting call, or you just want to pick my brain, send me a DM on Instagram. I'll leave all that information down below for you, because that's a service that I'm starting to offer, because so many of you are finding these videos super helpful, but you have more questions that you want me to ask privately. So I'm happy to offer that for you. So if you like the video, go ahead and like it. What am I doing over here? I feel like I'm doing grease or something. Like the video, subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.